Hey, welcome back to the Passive Buddies podcast. And today, obviously, is super relevant in the times that we are in right now, guys. So if you are scared and if you are worried about your finances, this is definitely the podcast for you to listen to today. We're going to cover the 5 steps you can protect yourself in this economy. And obviously, Brandon is possibly one of the most, the word's frugal, isn't it? But other people say tight. One of the most frugal people going. So he's going to be able to help divert and protect your cash flow. And then we can, once we protect it, we can start looking at expanding it. Good morning, buddy.
Good morning, my passive buddy. How are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Obviously, I've been up a few hours. I'm on my third cup of tea.
So jealous.
And it's not raining. So woohoo! Right, yourself?
That is a great day for you. No cloudiness. Just that's awesome. I am still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. My eyes are still a little bit glazed over from being up so early, but a coffee is in my near future, and I'm really excited about that. But I'm really excited about how we can help people protect themselves in this type of economy.
And you know what, mate? Like, I think this one it's probably one of our most vital podcasts at this moment in time, in terms of our topics. Like, I think it hit realization. Like, do you remember? I seen an interview with Elon Musk the other day, and he was saying like someone was telling Elon Musk like people are crying and so scared about the electricity and the energy prices, and you could see like he was welling up. He was like, I didn't realize it was that bad. Obviously, being the richest man on earth, obviously it's not gonna feel that bad for him. But obviously, for everyday people, it's even harder, isn't it? We need to be able to protect those people and help them survive and thrive in this chaos.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when we moved to Texas, gas was like $1 something a gallon, and I think you guys go by liters in the UK, right?
Yeah.
So I was listening to some crazy. I was looking at doing the math, and someone did the math online, and they were saying, yeah, it's like $2 per liter, and then you do the math, and it's like actually $10 a gallon in the UK. While here, it's like maybe $5. So the UK definitely is hurting, and obviously the United States is hurting, and we're first world countries, so you can only imagine what underdeveloped countries are doing. I want to say third world countries, but that's incorrect, because that's more of talking about the side of the war people were on. A lot of people don't know that, but in developed or underdeveloped countries where it's really hard just to get water, I could imagine what they're going through right now.
Yeah, it said like obviously I always quote Star Wars. There's always a bigger fish. There's always a bigger problem. Right. And it's just one of them, isn't it? Like, obviously, we're moaning about gas prices. People have to walk 4 or 5 miles for water. But as much as like that is painful, that's probably not going to help our audience. So she'd just go, oh yeah, well, people are worse off than you. Oh, that's the end of the podcast. No, we appreciate that. And obviously what we're trying to get at is like all around the world, no matter where we're talking, obviously like it's a bit hard right now, isn't it?
Right.
So we're going to talk about exactly what you can do to sort of like ease the pain and potentially thrive as well. So,
right. And these 5 steps can be used anywhere. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're in a amazing country like the countries we live in, or even in other countries that are still amazing, but are, having much of a harder time. So number 1, track and manage your expenses. Make sure that you're like Brian said, I'm a tightwad and very frugal in the very beginning of the podcast. So being able to minimize your spending habits, maybe see if you can start working from home if you have a 9 to 5 to cut down on gas and your miles on your car. If you can stop spending as much money going out, going to the restaurants, going to the bar or the pub, all these things add up, and they are expensive in the grand scheme of things. You can really, sure, $100 for a meal or $50 for a meal is quite expensive, but that $100 could pretty much pay for groceries for a week for a family. I think we spend about, for me and my wife, we spend about on average, I would say $150 a week for food. Maybe, and we don't have kids, so I mean, that's obviously, it's going to be different for you guys, but
Oh yeah.
you do need to make sure that you are tracking your expenses. There are some great apps out there like Mint, like Truebill. These are apps that they connect to your bank accounts. They see where all your spending is, and they see what your biggest problems are. So that would be Mint, where you can see exactly where your problem areas are in the whole grand scheme, like whole, whatever I was going to say, the whole, yeah. So when you are tracking your expenses, you can see where your spending habits are, and you can reduce them. And then there's Truebill, which allows you to, they will actually call your subscription companies, so like your insurance company, your phone bill, all these different expenses, and try and lower them by talking them to reduce the expenses. The thing I love about Truebill is I think there's different levels that you can spend. I think the cheapest one is even $1. I think you can even say how much you want to spend. So that's even a nice little thing there. But in doing so, you can, they will reduce your expenses. They'll talk them to say, hey, can we lower this insurance? But they get a cut of what they've actually reduced. So say, for instance, you were paying 100, they talk it down to 50. I think they get the difference of like $20. So the money goes to them. It's a pretty cool concept. So definitely check that out. What are some tips you have on reducing and managing your expenses?
So obviously, like the first ones are the restaurants, aren't they? The restaurants, the bars, and the pubs, they're the first thing to go. And it's such a shame, but you can still have a good night. Like we do like stay at home dates. We don't do them as often as we used to, but like I'd like cook a really nice meal. We'd get dressed up, obviously, mainly cool, because of the kids. Like, because obviously finding a babysitter for three kids is a little bit difficult. Right. So we'd like send all the kids to bed. Obviously, like we dress up, we'd wear something nice, and we'd like do a meal. And do you know what? Some of those were actually really, really fun and quite enjoyable. And it was a lot cheaper than having those either go out the restaurant and obviously the wine and dine. So those type of scenarios, like you can still create those environments. You can still, just because you're at home, it doesn't mean you can't have fun. Like instead of going to a bar, you could have a barbecue and invite people around, and it's like obviously people bring their own beer, and then there's like you can still do those type of things. Probably barbecue's not in the UK because it's never sunny, but if you're in the US, laughing. So you can still create those experiences even by living a little bit tighter. You've just got to be creative with those things. The second thing, obviously, when you're talking about reducing your spending, like you spoke about groceries. Now, what is becoming very, very popular right now is going back to growing your own. Like growing your own. I'm Brandon, I'm surprised you don't do this, pal. I really, really am. But growing your own groceries and obviously getting that vegetables, because obviously no matter what happens, if you start now, like obviously you're going to save yourself a ton of money. But if you start now, you're going to save yourself a ton of money for you in 5 years' time as well. Because obviously everything's always going to go up. That's a natural order of things. So if you can start putting these things in now, where it's like, right, okay, well, I grow my own potatoes, I grow my own like vegetables, fruits, and yeah, it takes a little bit more of your time, but then at the end of the day, you've saved so much money. So that's another way of, because it's all about cash flow, isn't it? Like, so if you can increase your time a little bit by, I don't know, spending a day planting some vegetables, like that's done then, isn't it? And they just keep coming and coming and coming with a little bit of maintenance. So using those little flip sides. In the UK, we have an app called Snoop, which sounds really, really dodgy. But that's the exact same as the likes of Mint and Truebill over in the US. I'm not quite sure who does the transfer, like who works in both or who doesn't. But I think when I tried to type in Mint on my phone, it didn't come up. So Snoop was the UK version I found. So that does the same, connects all your bank accounts together, itemizes all your bills and all that, and you can start to see where you can play and where you can start reducing. Obviously, the easiest one is to cancel your Netflix account, isn't it? There's right. There's a few dollars saved straight away.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. It's funny you said that you should start cooking. That you're surprised that I'm not farming my own vegetables, because I'm not. but I've been looking into it.
Yeah, me too.
I subscribe to this like $5 greens, I think it's called, or 5 minute greens, and it shows you like how to cut a lemon and grow a lemon tree and create like other kind of vegetables. And so I've been talking to my wife because we live in Texas, so we're gonna have farm animals here, and I've been like wanting a pig and a chicken. Not that I would kill the pig, I want it as a pet, but I would like to get a chicken, to have chicken, and or not actually eat the chicken, but egg, because we go through a lot of eggs in the morning. And so all these things are pretty cool. I wanted to create like a little like herb garden on the side yard, because we just have all this land. I mean, not like we're on acres or anything, but we have quite a big backyard, and all it is grass. And so it'd be nice to kind of have a little thing that I built myself. And I think it would be pretty cool to actually do. So definitely something that is in the looks, because I want to definitely do that. But that brings us to number 2, which is develop some skills and strengthen ones you have. So like me, I want to be a little Dr. Green Thumb and start doing a little bit of planting and harvesting of vegetables and fruit and all sorts of different things. But you should be developing the skills that you have, since you're not going to be watching Netflix and going out as much. You'll have more time for yourself to develop those skills.
Oh, 100%. And like working on those, they call them high income skills, don't they? Skills that you can use and leverage and always be able to make money. Like one of them, like that always works for me. Like if I was ever short or needed some extra cash, the first thing I'd do is just go and get a commission only sales role. And obviously get the leads coming in. Obviously just close them, obviously, because I've been a closer for so long. It's like, right, okay, if I need some additional cash, who's got a closing role? Give me some phone calls, and then obviously bring in the money there. So those like high ticket skills like copywriting, sales, like all these different things, you can get like an extra like $1,000, like $2,000 per month just by doing these tasks effectively. So if you do need to up rev and learn some new skills, definitely follow our YouTube channels, because there's tons and tons of gold there, obviously, to help you up level. As Brandon said, if you're not watching Netflix, you may as well watch our YouTube channels.
Right. And subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channels, because those are going to help you strengthen those skills and develop them. So, and then that brings us into starting a side hustle or just a side business, kind of like you said, where you would, if you had to, you would find out a commission only position, you would apply for that and get some leads, and then start closing some deals. What are some other side hustles that you would start if you were new or trying to save money? Obviously not like becoming Uber or anything, but because then you'd be wasting your gas. But what are some other good ones?
But to be fair, like obviously, even if you went like, so if you go offline first, like there's so many different things you can do. Like, so if you went and done what me and Brandon are going to do and grow our little like vegetables, you could sell them. So straight away you can make a profit, because people prefer the whole organic route. That in itself is a market. So you could literally, whatever you were selling, you could like, or whatever you were growing, you could sell. Like for instance, I know just going back to the herb stuff, but my dad was growing strawberries. He's literally made 3 pots of strawberry jam out of the amount of strawberries he's had. I was like, wow. So thankfully he gave me a pot of strawberry jam, but you could sell it, make a bit of cash. So, but in terms of online, because it's so much easier, it's scalable. That's where we want to be looking. Because you can sit at home, you can reduce your expenses, and obviously just crack on, obviously, because you've got this free time. Obviously, commission only sales is always good, but it's a hard graft in terms of like you have to learn how to sell, so it's not easy to start with. Other things you can do is you go on like Upwork, Fiverr, all of these freelancing websites. People are always looking for like admin, data analysts, like all these basic tasks that could bring in some additional cash. There's things that if you're really struggling with things like micro workers and rapid workers, which can give you like $25 per or 25 cents per task, and the like dead short tasks, do a few of them across the day. Obviously you're going to build up extra income. They're very low ticket, but then your higher ticket stuff is copywriting, it's sales, it's web design, like all of these skills that you're going to be learning in obviously one of our previous recommendations. You can go and sell them as services. And as you say, an extra $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month just by being a freelancer with some of these skills is going to is going to definitely help towards obviously what's going on right now.
Yeah, and I love that your dad is growing strawberries where he could sell them just by themselves, but then he made jam, which was then being able to charge more. So you're able to, it's like that
picture of the bananas.
Yeah, or exactly that. You could grow the bananas, or you can, you know, make them into something and sell them. I think that's really a great idea, where you can take something that costs you time in a sense, but the output is much higher because you're able to use less strawberries than you could just sell them individually, but you're making them into a jam. So it's kind of more craft in a sense, and you're able to make a lot more selling them. And then you can obviously do things where you're learning how to market. So you can learn how to market that strawberry jam. And then you can create a whole team around selling a strawberry jam. I think that's really cool. And just like you said, you can go on micro jobs. I forget what the website's called, but I think it's through Amazon. There are a bunch of different ways to make money online. You can check previous podcasts. I know we have a podcast coming up with the 5 mistakes for affiliate marketers. So you definitely want to be on the lookout for that. So all sorts of different ways to make money online. I feel like there's more ways to make money online there than, I don't know. There's just, I think it's easier to make money online because then you're not driving around. You're not having to go through interviews. You're creating your own business. You can say how much you want to charge. So I think that there is, and then you get to decide what your value is versus what other people are deciding. Obviously, there's a marketplace in a sense what your value is, but you can obviously be the top dog in that market and charge whatever you want. And if you're solving big problems, then you can charge quite a bit of money for it. So I mean, the bigger the problem you solve, the more money you're going to make. So I think that's super important to start a side hustle and have that extra income growing. And I mean, as you do it, so say you do affiliate marketing and you get a few people, as time goes on, that might actually replace your day job. And then you're able to really just work from home and reduce all your expenses. Because to be honest, to have a 9-to-5 is kind of expensive. I mean, having to buy clothes for work, having to drive to work, having to drive and use gas and use your time, having to, I already said clothes, lunch, you know,
coffee in the morning.
Meals, you know, all these things definitely add up, especially if you're having to go out to lunch every day and not make your own lunch from home. I mean, obviously you could make your own lunch from home and then bring it to work. But then if you like tuna and you're trying to microwave a tuna sandwich and then it smells at the whole office and then everyone thinks you're a tuna guy. Not that I've ever had that experience, but
you sure? It felt like a bit tense right then. It was like,
no,
right, I've got tissues.
I've never had I think I had a 9-to-5 like years ago as a personal trainer. We'll have that topic for another time. But number 4 is buying the dip. Even if it's a couple dollars every month or a couple dollars every day, there are apps out there that you can use that do dollar cost averaging, which is where you put a set amount of money that you can afford. Obviously, this is not financial advice, but for me, I set up an app where like either Webull or some of the other financial ones, crypto.com, where you can set up a $5 or $100 a month or whatever that is, that automatically just takes that out. Doesn't matter the time, doesn't matter what the market is doing. It just buys, that's why it's called dollar cost averaging, because it's averaging out how much you invest every single month. So you set a price, and since the market has dipped in some, I think Netflix is down 70%. I think Bitcoin is down 70 or 60%. So all of these, you're getting everything at a discount. And really the money that is made in financial hardships are during these times, because people are buying the dip. Because just with inflation, like we're going through now, just through as time goes on, you know what they say, that the best time to invest was 10 years ago. And imagine if you invested in Bitcoin 10 years ago, and the best time to invest is now, because in 10 years, you're going to be wishing that you could have bought 10 years ago. And that's why you should be always investing in yourself and investing in your future, your financial future, with investment vehicles. What are some things that you do to buy the dip?
So you say, like, it's always like finding those things. If you're not into your stocks and your shares and stuff like that, it can become a bit overwhelming. Because and one bit of advice, like, I would say is like, when you see the dips happen, like, don't look at what's happening right now. If you wanted to, go and take a 10-year span of what's happened to that stock, and you will see, like, even the dips, you will see over the 10 years it goes up regardless. Something crazy has to happen for the company just to go completely down. But like, if you're buying in solid companies that have been around for decades, that are going to be around for decades, like, even buying at a dip where you're like, oh no, like, obviously everything's going wrong, everything self-corrects itself. Okay, nobody ever falls, stumbles, and stays down. So the stock markets will correct themselves. Like, it will go up. So if you're buying at the lower price, as you say, Brandon's best, and he uses it so many times, like, his best way of looking at this is, the stock hasn't gone down, you're getting it at a discount, because eventually the price goes back up. So if you go at that mentality and look at, even if you're just buying something small but consistent over a long period of time, that'll make a massive, massive difference. Like, these foundational steps that you can put in today, like, as we said, the minimization, the side hustle, what you're doing is you're creating a better life for you in 5 years time. Like, you are literally protecting future you. You are giving future you the freedom to do what you want by you having the confidence, listening to this podcast and taking action on these things. What you're doing is, you won't feel the effect today, but you will feel the effect in 5 years' time, and you'll be thankful you listened to this podcast, you followed out the instructions, and you cracked on.
Yeah, you have to think of how compound interest works. It's insane that you can literally, in 40 years, make $1 million just by investing. I think it's $100 a month if you invest at the start of like 20. By the time you're like 65, you have $1 million. But if you started, I think, at 30, you only have like 600,000 or less. And it's because of the power of compound interest that you're able to do that. And the people that make it, and I think we've said this in a previous podcast, are people that think in decades versus people that think in weeks or quarters or years. Because obviously, if you think in decades and you think long term, you're thinking how you can protect your future. And with that, you need to start building relationships and deepen the ones you have, because we're all in this together. And so if you can start building those good relationships, add us on YouTube, add us on Facebook and Instagram, build those relationships with people, then those people are going to want you to win, and you're just going to have a strong connection with those people, so you can maybe collaborate with people in your network and really build out a solid foundation for your side hustle, strengthen those skills. So having those relationships will definitely take you far.
Yeah, and obviously, do you know what, mate? I'm going to use the perfect example of this, of how this has worked, but it wasn't intentional. Like, obviously, me and Brandon have known each other for years. Like, it's been 4 years now.
3 years.
3 years. Like, obviously, we've always been around each other. We've always, like, spoke to each other, not like every single day. But obviously, like, we've developed that relationship. Obviously, we've been on a couple of talk shows together. We've had a good laugh, and then all of a sudden, obviously, we're together. We're on this podcast. We've created this content for you guys, all from a relationship that started 2 years ago, with no intent to leverage each other at any point, until it was like, right, no, now this fits, and now it's a good idea. So those relationships that you can build with the right people. Obviously, that's a whole process, identifying who the right people are to put into your circle. But those relationships that you can develop today can 100% pay off in 2, 3, 4 years' time. And obviously, you might start your own podcast with someone that you've connected with in the last couple of months, and you could be having a great time, giving loads of value and helping a ton of people, which obviously really helps. So networking is crucial. And I go back to another one. I was recently on a YouTube live with a YouTube count of there was 9,000 subscribers. I got the highest views out of 16 lives back to back. But that recommendation come from a relationship that was developed 3-4 years ago. I got that recommendation, jumped onto that. Obviously, it spiked my views, it spiked everything, all from a relationship that I've nurtured over the last 3 years. Not every single day. Hey, how you doing? You okay? But just naturally, obviously, we check in from time to time. We're there for each other when we're needed, and it's paid off. It's paid off more ways than one, but obviously that was the latest example of a 3-4 year relationship, all online. Never met these guys. Never been to Brandon's house for a barbecue. He's never invited me. Can you believe that?
I know. I am so rude.
But these relationships, I've never met these guys, and yet obviously they come in and they make my life better every single day, all just from the unintentional actions that they create.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because just like you said, I got into the whole online space at the end of 2019. So it'll be just about 3 years here in a couple months. And so when we got on this podcast, we talked about this the other day, where we wish we did this in the beginning of the week. We do it typically on Wednesdays, but it's like the best start of our week because we have these conversations about these topics, but it pumps us both up because we're so excited to really give value to all you guys. And it really, it bonds us closer because we're, before we even get on the podcast, we talk of how's the week going and blah, 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 blah. But then we have these discussions between us, on this podcast, not live, but recorded. And it really then again builds and strengthens and deepens those relationships even more. And we even get to, learn and joke with each other because, about making a little farm and stuff like that. So it's a good thing to have those relationships, build those relationships and strengthen them and deepen them, like you said.
100%. Have we covered everything?
Yeah, I think to sum it up, you want to track and manage your expenses, reduce them, become frugal, or a tightwad, like Brian said, develop skills and strengthen them, strengthen the ones that you have. If that's learning more about jumping on YouTube or joining the Passive Buddies accelerator so that you're able to strengthen those skills. If that's starting a side hustle, as number 3, buying and investing in your future, not financial advice, and then build and strengthen and deepen those relationships.
Nailed it, mate. Absolutely nailed it. So guys, if you have stuck around to the end of this podcast, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Hope you've got a ton of value. If you've got any questions, guys, 100%, if you are watching the YouTube version, go and drop a comment below. Let us answer, let us help you. Any recommendations you've got, and we're there for you. As usual, like, follow, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Peace.